Hi everybody, Jane here. Thank you for watching my video today. So today I am working in the Dina Wakley ledger journal. I do believe these are on their way back in stock in places, so just keep your eyes out if you were still looking for one from when they were on sale for the first time. They were obviously very popular. I am using inspiration today from the new industrial books from Maremi Small Art, and as always with this journal I like to add some washi tape down this centre seam just because I feel that it just gives it a little bit more security for not going through to other pages. Now, I have been asked in the past about how these pages stand up to mediums. I have to say it is starting to look a little bit buckled, my book, but I am probably above average in the amount of things I add onto pages. So if I am throwing texture paste, watercolor mediums, acrylic paint, collage, multiple layers of liquid and liquidy materials at it, and it's still staying, it's fine. I decided I wanted to use this back page from the Fashionistas, the Fashionista personas. I'll put everything in the box below. I'll list everything so you know exactly what it is I've used. I'm using the very final page where this is on the background because it's actually just a page, I shouldn't say it's the page of information about Marta's YouTube channel and Facebook group. And I didn't need to keep that, so I thought, I'm going to use the back of that for some collaging. So that's the page that I tore out, and I'm just using it to stick with some Liquitex matte medium across the page. Before that, the washi tape I used was just one that I bought in a set. I think it was from the range. It was a fairly cheap sort of washi tape set. They were like a vintage 6 of them or something like that. And I thought the colours just went and blended quite nicely with the background of the journal. So I thought it would be an ideal one to use. So I decided I would just tear strips from the paper. When you tear paper, you get a more natural edge to it, so it can blend a bit better when you want to blend other mediums over the top. I'm going horizontally, I'm going vertically. I wasn't really thinking too much. I just knew I vaguely wanted a sort of a strip across the page, but then I felt that it needed something going upwards as well. And actually, as I did it, I thought it looked a little bit like a sort of industrial skyline almost, which goes really nicely with the images from the books. Once I had stuck everything down, I needed some acrylic paint. So I'm going with a selection of different matte acrylic paints here, and I am watering them down because I wanted to still be able to see some of the colours of the tapes and papers and also the ledger journal behind. So the first colour I am using is Porcelain by Indigo Blue, and it is a matte acrylic. And as I said before, I will list and link some of these products down below. Then I'm going in with a bit of buff from Dina Wakley Media. I have to think what she was called then. They vary in thicknesses, these paints. I think the Indigo Blue is a little bit more fluid and the buff is a little bit of a thicker acrylic paint, but they all act in the same way, especially if you're adding in some water. Now this is another indigo blue, but this is from an older range they did called Junk and Disorderly. I don't know if it's still available. It was a range they brought out that was very steampunky, and this is Warm Tan. At this point I realised that it was getting a little bit too opaque for me, and I started by wiping with a wet wipe, and then I thought, oh, maybe I can lift or bring some up through the stencil, which didn't really work. So I went back over and got rid of the little bits that it had done, because you couldn't really see it wasn't making much of an impact. Once this was all dried, I wanted to add a little bit of stamping in, and I decided to go with this stamp from PolkaDoodles. It's a vintage text stamp, and I thought it matched quite nicely with the text that was in the background of the paper that I took from the Maremi book. And I'm using Hickory Smoke Archival ink because Archival will go over lots of different products, but I thought the Hickory Smoke went nicely with the colours on the page, and also because I didn't want anything too bold. I wanted it to be blended as if it was a part of the paper. Once I was happy with how that was looking, I decided I would go with a little bit of stenciling. Now this stencil is a Dinkable, a little dinky stencil from Be Crafty in the UK, and I will link to the page on their website. They sell these in sets. Later on I will use another one from a different set. This one I do believe was from set 5, and the other one I'm going to use will be from set 1, just in case you wanted to know. But again, I will list that, and I will link to the general page on their website. I'm going with some Prussian blue fluid acrylic from Decoart. Now, because this is a fluid acrylic, I made sure to put a very small amount out on my mat, and I really did work it into the brush so that I wasn't getting it underneath the stencil, because that's when you get that seepage, sort of when there's too much paint or it's very fluid. Then I went into my books to choose my main focal point. Now this was from the Fashionistas, and I wanted a really lovely big image, and I thought she was absolutely beautiful. I then went into the bits and bobs and cut out a couple of butterflies, and then you don't see me, but I do also then cut out a light bulb, one of my favourites, but I didn't show that. I did that afterwards. So here are the pieces cut out. So I've gone with my lovely image to go on the left hand page, because she's facing into that side. I like my images, if they're facing a certain way, to be facing into the piece. I don't like them facing out of the pages. But she did need something to stand on, so I'm going with this washi tape. It's an Aall and Create one. I'm not sure what the name of it is, but it is from Aall and Create. And I did one piece solid and then tore another piece so that I could add some extra little bits for her to be standing on. Now I've decided to go with my butterflies and my light bulb just as a little accent on the other page. I wanted her to be the main focal point that you would look at, but I didn't want the other page to have nothing, and so I thought just those 3 little pieces just really drew your eye across to them, as well as though she's sort of waving her sparkly wand and the butterflies are flittering off towards a light bulb. So maybe they should have been moths. I wanted to add a little bit more onto the top of my images. I felt that it just needed a bit more texture to the page. So this is the other Dinkable that I was talking about that comes from, I do believe, set 1. And it is being used here with some white texture paste from Pretty Gets Gritty, and I just wanted to add it in a few places on the main image, and I wanted it to actually go over her a little bit so that it really brought everything in together on the page, so it didn't look like she was separate. Once that had dried, I'm now going to use my Inktense pencils from Derwent. Now the colours I'm using today, I normally use Bark, that's one of my favourites, or Indigo, but I'm actually using Charcoal Grey and Sea Blue because I felt they went with the colours in the background papers. So I am just adding it wherever I think I would like a bit of shadow, and then I'm also going to add some of the blue around the stars. I did go on to finish shading the rest of the 2 pages, and then I have chosen some sentiments from Asher Marquette's sentiment books, and I've just chosen 3 that I thought really went well with the vibe of the page. So I'm just going to stick these on with some Cosmic Shimmer glue, and then I will be done. So thank you ever so much for watching my video today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it would be fabulous if you could give me a thumbs up to let everyone know that it was enjoyable. And if you haven't already subscribed, if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be fabulous as well. So until the next time, bye bye.